The Circuit of Heaven. My name is Daniel Valles, and welcome to our channel. This is such an amazing time. So much is going on right now. I've been telling a lot of people recently, what we see up in the heavens is amazing, but then also what we see down on a ground level in our own lives is amazing too. To see how they go together and how they dovetail together. What the Lord is working down on the ground also goes with what we see in the heavens. So much telling us the prophetic time. Definitely check out our YouTube community tab. Learn more about what the Lord's been doing recently here at the Brook Cherith Medical Mission Center, getting ready for those who will be here during the days ahead. So many preparations and so many things coming together, a readiness telling us that this time is very short. Where we are right now, we need to redeem the time, because a lot of what the Lord is working is going to be coming to pass very, very soon. We see that time is so very short, so definitely check out those updates. If you are new to our channel, I also highly recommend you check out our PDF. There's a link in the description box for The Heavens Declared, which recaps a lot of the celestial signs that we've seen since 2014 through 2018. That's what the book primarily focuses on. Just a great in-depth study of the constellations, the rare celestial signs that the world has seen, that even the news outlets have talked about some of them. They caught the world's attention. The heavens have been declaring a loud story, telling us a conclusion is coming up. We see a certain day approaching when we look at the words that the heavens declare. We can see it telling a story, and we also know what the next chapter is. We can see that day approaching, and we are here right now. Also, if you are new to our channel, I highly recommend you review our latest videos for the best astronomical concepts and understanding. We talk about some of the mechanics of how the heavens work, and this helps us see and understand God's celestial clock. How does it declare certain signs at certain times? How does it declare seasons and days and years? And how the Bible tells us these lights in the firmament are for signs. So the more we explore the mechanics of how they work, the more we can see how they do declare these signs. And I hope you've been able to go outside recently and just watch the progression. It's been very visible. I've had a number of people comment to me that they've seen Jupiter and Venus on the horizon. It's been so clear, it stands out, it's been bright. Even our local weatherman has been posting pictures of them drawing close to each other over the past few days, because it's a celestial sight that a lot of people have noticed. The world notices them. They look up, they say, what's that? They take note of what the heavens are doing, and it should spur us to study more of what are the heavens declaring. Is there a reason why creation is doing this? Why does it work this way? Why don't we see this every day? Because it's doing it for a certain reason at this time. It's telling a certain select and timely choreography. So I hope you're able to go out and see it, especially over several days, and really see how Venus has been sliding up along underneath Jupiter. Jupiter's been going slow, Venus has been the bright one, and you will notice that they have different rates of speed, but you'll also notice that they move along slightly different paths. I was able to get this picture the other day on the 27th with the moon, Jupiter in the middle, and then Venus on the left. And of course, if you understand where the sunset is, that tells you where the sun is. And this gives us a good idea of the line that the Bible talks about, the ecliptic line. The sun, moon, and planets move along this line. They all have different speeds and different types of choreography, different motions, but they follow along the line, sometimes a little bit above it, sometimes a little bit below it. And especially over these past few days, you've really been able to see a line up in the heavens moving along that line in this particular section, very clear, very visible, and that's given a really good demonstration of how the heavens declare along the line. These celestial lights in the firmament move along this line in this area with a distinct choreography. Psalm 19, 1 through 6. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. His going forth is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit unto the ends of it. And there is nothing hid from the heat thereof. The more that we look up and we lift up our heads and we get an understanding of the mechanics of how the heavens work, the more we can see the beauty and also the intricate details that the psalmist records here in Psalm 19 about the heavens. Remember, David, as he was growing up, he was a shepherd boy. He spent many nights out in the field watching the heavens, watching God's creation, understanding and contemplating how it works. David was used to looking up, lifting up his head, and considering his relationship with his Creator. And that helped foster in him a heart after God. And there's a few things I want to focus on today in Psalm 19, but one thing I really want to emphasize lately is take notice how this chapter emphasizes that heaven has a speech. It demonstrates knowledge through its intelligent movement. It has a very precise clockwork movement, and that is demonstrated, that is shown by the movements, that there is knowledge and intricate design behind it all. It has a specific voice. It has words. What goes on in the heavens with their movements says something. And this is something we need to keep in mind as we observe what the heavens are doing. Don't just get focused on singular signs, on singular days, at singular hours necessarily. Look at what the heavens declare. What is their story? What are the words that they are saying? There's a whole story behind why the heavens are doing and declaring what it is declaring, what it is showing. There is a story, there is words, there is a speech that goes with the demonstration of knowledge, a demonstration of deliberateness. And a lot of times we can lose focus of the forest, the story, the overall story. What is this sign even declaring at this time? What is the speech that it's saying? What are its words? If we just focus on a single tree, so to speak, singular signs. And I've seen a lot of people, after a sign was done, they'll say, oh, nothing happened, and they'll just forget about what happened. No, we got to look at what is the story? What words were declared by that sign? That sign will say, and it will show knowledge. It will show something. The story and the words are going to be louder than just the singular sign and event. And that's what we need to watch. And as we listen to what the heavens declare, we can see that it is telling a story. By its choreography, how different events lead one to another. There is a story. It is showing knowledge by these rare celestial events in sequence. But we must make sure that we are listening to the words. Now, one thing that the Lord has been impressing upon me lately is that there are circuits in the heavens. And notice how just these few verses he emphasizes the sun has a circuit. The sun is set in the heavens. The sun has a set area where it lives, where it dwells. That's along the line. Amidst the 12 constellations there, that's where it lives. That's where it stays. But it has a race. It has a particular motion to it. Even though it has a circuit, there are ends to that circuit. And what we're going to look at today is that there is a circuit in the heavens. There is a movement in the heavens. And by looking at the circuit, we see what the heavens are declaring along the line and how that relates to other circuits that are in the heaven that tell an even larger story. There is a whole story and tapestry of redemption that is being told and declared in the heavens right now that is shown, a handiwork that is shown right now actively by its choreography. And we can see it when we pay attention to the circuit that goes through the heaven, when we pay attention to the line and the circuit. Now, one astronomical concept that we talked about last year was the idea that the sun does not always set in the same place every day. It doesn't rise in the same place every day. And sometimes this confuses people who are not used to being outside. One day they notice, hey, the sun's rising or setting in a completely different place. Something's happening to the sun, and they panic. No, that's normal. The sun's done that for thousands of years, and that's why the sun lines up with certain structures around the world at different times of the year. It's because everybody knows the sun rises and sets in slightly different position every single day. It rises generally in the east, and it sets generally in the west. Now, if we were looking toward the east in late December, we would notice that the sun, it rises noticeably southward from due east, and it does that furthest away from the east on the winter solstice. And that is when it is generally darkest and the coldest, too. The nights are longest, the days are shortest. And that's when the sun is at the furthest southward at the winter solstice. But the sun will gradually shift and move over the weeks and months ahead, returning to rising at the east. And it will rise at due east again on the spring equinox. And that's what makes it unique, and that's why certain structures are built to line up where the sun rises on the spring equinox, right in certain areas, and they make a special deal of it because the sun does move and rise in different spots. But the sun keeps moving and starts rising northward of due east as the days get warmer until it gets till the summer solstice. And you'll notice that the sun is rising pretty northward of where it was at the spring equinox. So after that peak, the sun turns and moves toward going back to due east again, and it will reach that at the fall equinox. Again, when it's lined up due east, it'll do that 2 times a year, returning to that position, but then it'll keep going. It'll start its circuit over again, heading toward where it was at the winter solstice again, going southward from due east. And this is a concept that the psalmist understood. Their line has gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them, in the constellations along the line, in them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. The sun does run a race, and he really does appear as a runner, running back and forth across the horizon. Now you'll notice that there's two turning points, and this is well understood for thousands of years, that the sun turns at two different spots in its path. It'll be going along in one direction for a number of months and then will stop and turn. And that is at the winter solstice, where it turns and goes the other direction, and also the summer solstice, where it stops and turns and goes the other direction. Now at the summer solstice, that turning is called the turn of Cancer, or the Tropic of Cancer. And you might have heard that before. That's because that is the farthest north that the sun can be seen directly overhead. The ecliptic crosses the Tropic of Cancer on the first day of summer, in the zodiac sign of Cancer. That's why they call it that. Just the 12 divisions along the ecliptic along the line, just from an astronomical perspective. It gets that name, the turn of Cancer, the Tropic of Cancer, because that's where that turn takes place. The same is true for the winter solstice. It is also known for a turn of Capricorn, the Tropic of Capricorn, when the ecliptic crosses the Tropic of Capricorn on the first day of winter, in the zodiac sign of Capricorn. And that's why they have those particular weird names, because of how it interacts with the equator line at that point, at those turns. If you were to go out into a field and just lay down, if you had a good horizon, a good clear sky, one of the first things you'll notice is toward the west, where the sun had been setting. You'll notice Jupiter and Venus over in that direction, and that's what we've seen. But you'll also notice the Milky Way. The band of the Milky Way is very noticeable. And this has long stood out. This is what we're talking about. And particularly this bright section of the Milky Way, which is where Jupiter is right now. So that's been one unique circuit, if you will, a wheel, a band that's in the heavens that's well known because anybody can see it. You don't need an astronomer or somebody to tell you about it. You just look up and say, hey, there's a circle shape there. Especially as the night progresses and the sky rotates around, you see more of the band coming around and you can see a circular shape to it. But then also, as we've noticed, if you go out toward evening, you can see the sun, the moon, the planets moving along a particular path in the sky. They're always in that particular path. Sometimes they'll be a little bit above it or a little bit below it, but they're always traveling along the line, the ecliptic line. And the more you go outside and observe the planets and just take note of how they move in relation to each other, you know there's a certain movement, how they move through the 12 constellations along this line. And you'll also notice over time that the Milky Way divides the 12 constellations in half. There's a story on one half and there's a story on the other half. And it does catch our attention that we've been seeing a story with Jupiter only in one half so far, from one end of the Milky Way to, again, where it is now, doing a whole half circle of the ecliptic, but also to the two different points of the Milky Way. And it doesn't take long to notice that there's this line of movement, there's the line of the Milky Way, but then also as you observe the sky and how it rotates, as we've talked about, you'll notice the sky rotation, how the whole sky dome rotates. The Milky Way rotates with the whole sky, and so does the ecliptic. Even though the sun, moon, and planets are moving along the line, on the inside of the dome, if you will, that's just their apparent movement, the whole sky also has its own movement too. And there's an equator of movement with that. Now we can see here on December 3rd, in just a few days, Jupiter is going to be at a unique position because it's going to be along the ecliptic line that we know pretty well, the line, but it's also in line with the Milky Way, the galactic equator of it, that's there. But then there's also the equator of the sky dome and the midpoint of it, where the winter solstice takes place. It's at this midpoint of this equator between the equinoxes. That's this point right here. So Jupiter is going to be at a very unique position in the circuits of the heaven in just a few hours. And it catches our attention because Jupiter hasn't been back to this position for 12 years. And what has Jupiter been weaving a choreography of in the last few years? It's been telling some rare and unique signs. So for it to come back to this position right in context of what we have recently seen, the words, the speech, and the voice that we have heard demonstrated by knowledge, the choreography of Jupiter that we've heard recently, it's been telling a story leading to this very unique astronomical point that needs to catch our attention, where all these circuits are coming together right here. And also understanding by the midst of December, the sun's going to be catching up along the line with Jupiter So Jupiter's basically going to be disappearing into the haze of the sun, and you're going to lose sight of it. So only for a few more days are these visible signs going to be really seen, particularly understanding where they are right now. Jupiter is at the Milky Way. You can clearly see that. But we got to understand this sign, and particularly what we've seen over the past few months, is going to be going off the scene very soon for about 4 weeks too. So right now is drawing attention to where it is right now. An important intersection right here at this brightest part of the firmament, with all the lights in the firmament right here, drawing our attention to where Jupiter is right now. Now if we were to zoom out really wide and get an idea of how is the sun's circuit along the line, how is that so important with where Jupiter is right now? Let's look at the sun's position at the spring equinox. And right now that takes place in Pisces, the fish, where the sun, as it goes along the ecliptic, it crosses the equator, and that point is the spring equinox. But then it'll come to the midpoint of the equator, and that is the summer solstice. Right there, the midpoint of the equator along the line. This is one of its turning points right here. And the sun will continue along its path along the ecliptic till it gets to the equator again. And when it crosses there, that is going to be the fall equinox, the ultimate equinox, where the days and nights are equal again. But then it will progress again till it gets to the midpoint along the equator, that portion between the equinoxes, and that's the winter solstice right there, when the days are the shortest. And this is the other turning point that's recognized astronomically. This turning point right here, and this turning point over here at both of the solstices, where it also crosses the Milky Way. Take notice of that. Take notice of the circuits that are going through the heaven. We have the ecliptic line, and it's in a circle, but this projection gives a best overview of it. Then you have the Milky Way, and it also forms a circle, comes back around. And then you have the equator, which is also another circuit. And all these interact with each other. Different midpoints of the one are reflected on the other. The sun, as it continues in this circuit, is reflected by how it interacts with this circuit. That's why these 2 points, the summer solstice turning point and the winter solstice turning point, are so significant astronomically. These are significant points that relate to the sun's movement along its circuit. And if we look here on December 3rd, we can see where Jupiter is going to be in relation to all these circuits. It's going to be along the ecliptic at this point where it's reaching the midpoint of the equator, but it's also crossing the galactic equator too. It's at an intersection of 3 different circuits right here. And we've been watching Jupiter's path ever since Gemini, paying attention to that there, which was right after the other turning point. So we've seen an interesting story being declared between 2 turning points, bringing us to this bright section of the firmament, the brightest section of the firmament right here, reminding us of the throne of God, which also reminds us of the fiery stream that proceeds from the throne of God, which also tells us that this story is also related to the throne of God too. Very interesting story and choreography that's been shown, the knowledge that's been shown by the choreography that Jupiter has woven during this time, bringing us to where we are now, another turning point. Now, if we were to go to 500 BC, 500 years before Christ, we get an idea of why they call it the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer, because the summer solstice at that time was in Cancer. That was the farthest north that the sun will be seen on that day at the summer solstice. And then the Tropic of Capricorn, the turn of Capricorn, takes place here, when the sun is at the farthest south that it is seen. So these are 2 recognized turning points, but it's been a while since that happened at that time, but they just retain the name even in our time, the 2 turning points. In our time, the winter solstice takes place a little past Sagittarius there, but it's still called the Tropic, the turn of Capricorn, and the same for the summer solstice takes a little bit past Gemini, even though it's still called the Tropic, the turn of Cancer. But that gives you an idea of these circuits, why they're called that. They are the furthest extents of the sun at those different times of the year, relating to the equator as it's going along its circuit. So they are related, and so that brings us to an interesting time where we are right now when we zoom in, just seeing where Jupiter is now, especially when we consider the circuit that it has followed, which is the same circuit that the sun travels along too. And Jupiter is part of the heavens declare. So we're at a very interesting time where we can see where the sun is at, right over the enemy, right at the left foot of Ophiuchus, and we also see Jupiter at the right foot and the right hand of Ophiuchus, the one who was born of a woman, right at the throne of God, right over his enemies. Very interesting time where we are right now. This should cause us to reflect, what have we seen? What has brought us to this point? Well, we remember back in 2013, we covered this in our video, The Head of the Serpent Dragon. We were reminded of the garden promise, I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, talking about the serpent, and thou shalt bruise his heel, bruising the heel of the Messiah. So we've been reminded of the garden promise when Jupiter rose up above the ecliptic line. When it rose up above that circuit, that's called the head of the serpent, the head of the dragon, because it's connected to Hydra. Remember, the whole sky rotates around Draco, so anything that happens along the line also reflects on Draco. That's why when a celestial object moves up above the equator or above the ecliptic, it's in the head of the dragon, it's in Draco's area because it's above the lines. That's also reflected by the aspect of that same dragon in Hydra, the head of the serpent. So ever since late 2013, Jupiter's been above the ecliptic, above the circuit of the sun. So all up in this upper area, dealing with the dragon, dealing with the head of the serpent, telling that same story all during this time, bring us to where it is right now. So this definitely has caught our attention. The choreography has been showing knowledge, a very specific path that it's been taking. And we've also seen that in just a few days, late February, Jupiter's going to go below the ecliptic, below the sun's circuit again. So it's going to be ending that whole theme that's been showing and demonstrating, that handiwork that's been declaring up until this point and up until that point. So where we are now, while it's still strong, and remember again, Jupiter's going to be going off the scene. It's not going to be visible. In just about 2 weeks, it's going to be going off the scene and gone for about 4 weeks too. So the story is effectively strongest here, but it's going to be ending and you won't even be able to see it very soon. We have our attention being drawn to where it is right now, the handiwork that has been demonstrated, that intelligence that has been demonstrated to bring us to this point. And one thing that also caught my attention was noticing where did all this start again? It started at Gemini, reminding us of the garden promise, but it was also in line along the equator. It was in line with Sirius. And we've talked about before, Sirius is the brightest star, and it also means leader, with the strong idea of coming quickly. The prince, that's its name. So a very strong reminder, right when all this started, the extent of the story, going all the way back, literally, to the Garden of Eden promise, that one day he will crush the serpent's head, right when the heavens were starting an orchestration and demonstration of knowledge relating to the head of the serpent, the head of the dragon. It was also starting at a point which was pointing to the prince, the one who's going to bruise the head of the serpent. There is intelligence demonstrated here in the handiwork and choreography. Now, we've also talked about before how Christ repeatedly uses this picture in the book of Revelation when he kept reminding the churches, reminding us, he is coming quickly. He is the morning star. And Sirius is the morning star. There's arguments made for Venus and even other stars, such as Mercury sometimes is a morning star. But Sirius is consistently the bright star. It's not a wandering star. A planet is a stare. It is a fixed star. It is the star. It is the bright star, and it's the morning star. And it's also the star that has the idea of coming quickly. And this is what Christ repeatedly emphasized in the book of Revelation. I'm telling you all this because I am coming quickly. I am the bright and morning star, the leader, the prince. I am coming to make my enemies the footstool, and I am coming for my wise and faithful servants. I am coming quickly. I will give the morning star, I will give myself to the ones who overcome, to the wise and faithful servants. And servants, keep in mind, I am coming quickly. That's what the star associated with me means. So here at this whole choreography, when it starts off with the Garden of Eden promise, we are reminded of the one who's going to come, the one who's going to come quickly, reminded of the prince, the one who will crush the head of the serpent. Right here at the beginning of this choreography that we've seen back in 2013. Right in line with the one who is expected to come, the one who's coming quickly. The one who told his servants to be looking for him and to overcome, knowing he is coming. Reminding us we are running a race. Reminding us to finish well because he is coming quickly. And all that happening right here in this region, right near the turn of the circuit of the sun right here. Right when the sun typically starts its new movement, right in this area here. So we see a story starting right after a turn, right after a start marker, which should catch our attention when we consider where Jupiter is now. Further along that line, it is reaching a finish point, another point of turning. Will we see the prophetic page turn at this time? Well, we don't know the day or hour, but we certainly see so many things declared right now. We have heard so many words, so much speech, so many voices declared by the heavens, telling and demonstrating an intelligence through the choreography, telling a story, a tapestry of redemption, bringing us to this turning point. We should expect the turning any moment now. Constantly being reminded that our Lord is coming quickly, and this is even how the book of Revelation finishes out. He says, "Surely I come quickly." And our reaction should be, "Even so, come Lord Jesus." We are looking for you. We are making ourselves ready for you. We are running out to meet you, knowing you are nigh, even at the door. We've also seen in our different videos that there is a day appointed on the celestial clock. In that day, the day of indignation, the Lord with his sore and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan the piercing serpent, even Leviathan the crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. And, as we've covered, his angels were cast out with him, minions of Satan, the devil, the serpent. All these details are included because we can also see it declared in the heavens too. And it's amazing again how Scripture tells us we can see the day approaching by telling us exactly names of constellations. We will see the story, we will see the time when we look up and we look into heavens at the crooked serpent, at the piercing serpent, at the dragon that is in the sea. And we realize it's within a certain circuit of the Milky Way, in between a certain portion, half of the ecliptic line of that circuit too. This story with these enemies is only on one half of the entire ecliptic, the circuit of the sun. So it's only in one area. It's only going to be told in one area. So we see that, yes, there's a time when this story starts along the Milky Way. Starts right there. And that's what we've seen. That's where the story started, right at that turning point. Right past that, the story's going along, told the whole story about Hydra, the serpent, with the lion of the tribe of Judah that's going to crush his head, the one who was born of a woman, the one who was resurrected, the one whose heel was bruised, who is going to make his enemies his footstool. And then what do we see right here? A turning point. Wow, that shouldn't surprise us. We see this whole story described of these enemies all within this area of the story where it's spelled out in the circuit of the heaven that the sun travels along. This shouldn't surprise us because the heavens declare the glory of God, and it showeth handiwork, it showeth knowledge, it shows a deliberateness to it. All of this choreography was programmed into the stars from day one of creation. And here we are seeing a conclusion of that story that was started all the way back at the Garden of Eden. God, foreknowing all of it, he predestined his Son to be the salvation, to be the mediator from the very beginning. Jesus Christ is the only mediator between God and man. And one day he is going to return and pick up his purchased possession, and he is going to make his enemies his footstool. And we are at a time that is loudly declaring our Redeemer is coming very quickly, and time is very, very short. Where is our King right now? We have such a high priest who is set on the right hand of the throne of the majesty in the heavens. A beautiful picture. We've been looking at the Milky Way picture, reminding us of the throne, especially at this bright portion. And what do we see? A strong reminder, right in line with the solstice at this point, a well-known astronomical point along the line, along the circuit. Right here we are reminded that our Redeemer is at the right hand of the throne of the majesty in the heavens. Right here, right where everything is lining up, being strongly reminded of the right hand. Right with his same right foot also right here at the throne also. That's where he's at. And he's about to make his enemies his footstool. We have so many things pointing to this time. But this man, after he had offered one sacrifice for sins forever, sat down on the right hand of God. Again, pointing to the right hand. From henceforth expecting till his enemies be made his footstool. Where is he? He's at the right hand of God. Right here at the throne of God. Right here where all these pictures are coming together. Right here. Along all these circuits where they all intersect. We see all that described, even summarized in that passage there. And he's going to be there till his enemies be made his footstool. What's under his feet right now? The enemy. Right there, right under his feet, right at the throne of God. He's going to be making them his footstool. All these pictures right here, accurately described in Scripture. One day, what's going to happen? We've been told we will see that day approaching. Here we are. We see that exact story, those exact words, that exact speech, that exact knowledge spelled out in the heavens at this point. Do we see that time is very short, that he is coming very quickly? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We've also seen recently with our video a third of the stars, the Star of Bethlehem reminder sign, that rare sign that took place, that conjunction between Jupiter and Venus, right here at the head of the lion. That's what made that sign rare, that closeness happening in this location. That's what made it super rare. Hadn't happened in 2,000 years. It caught the world's attention. Even the news were talking about it. But that marked out a point along the sky dome, how the whole sky rotates. And we've talked about how that has marked out along the circuit that the sun treads along. It's marked out 1/3 of the stars of the entire sky dome, which relate back to Draco's tail, how it spins in the sky dome up there, which goes exactly with his enemies that are spelled out. Already we know who's going to be addressed in that day. Also understanding his angels are going to be kicked out with him too. We already know and see all the enemies within this circuit of the Milky Way, right within here too. So it shouldn't surprise us that we also see 1/3 of the stars spelled out within this exact same story spot of the heavens too. Within this whole section that Jupiter has been weaving too on this half of the ecliptic line too. This half that's within this side of the Milky Way. It all demonstrates foreknowledge. It all demonstrates deliberateness, because it's all been leading us to our particular conclusion. In our video, The Footstool of the Throne, we talked about how it's brought us to the brightest spot of the firmament. So many stars in this area, so many reminders of the throne of God, reminders of the majesty that's seated in the heavens right here at this point. So many bright celestial beings surrounding the throne. So many things here at this point. And again, we've seen how that stream, that fiery stream, it goes all the way back to this other turning point. The story starts at the one who came from the heavens. The Lamb of God that would come from heaven, that would spring out of Judah, that would be the Lion of the tribe of Judah, that would be born of a virgin, that would be bruised by the adversary, but one day he would crush and bruise the serpent's head. And he sits at the right hand of the throne of God in heaven. We see several circuits all telling the same story. The whole story of the circuit of the throne, the one who came from the throne of God, the one who is now back at the throne of God, the one who will bring his wise and faithful servants to also be at the throne of God too. Incredible story, incredible circuits all coming together, telling the same story, weaving a beautiful tapestry of redemption at this time. And Scripture clearly says we should be exhorting one another, and so much the more as ye see the day approaching. You will see it when you look up, when you lift up your heads, when you see and hear the words, the story, the voices, the demonstration of knowledge that the heavens are declaring. Telling a story. A story about what? A story about our Redeemer. And the story is what tells us our redemption draweth nigh. That's how we know our redemption draweth nigh. Where are we in the story that's being told? Are we listening to the story? Are we listening to the words that tell us your redemption draweth nigh? We see the day approaching. Everything's been leading up to a particular chapter in the story, a turning point. We don't know the day or hour, but we see a turning point coming very soon. We see that time is very short. Let's live accordingly. Let's exhort one another, and so much more. Let's live as though we are expecting our Redeemer, the one who is at the right hand of the throne of God. We've seen a turning point over by Gemini starting the story. We see a turning point here at the right hand of God, right here at the foot, right here at the throne of God. So many things coming together, reminding us of Psalm 19 again. Their line is going out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. His going forth is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit unto the ends of it. What do we see here? We see two ends. We see one turning point, right after we have seen another turning point. We've seen the king planet travel along that, telling a very unique story along that line. We see where it is now at the throne of God, at the right hand of God. But we're also noticing the sun, painting a picture as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber. Where is the sun right now? If that's telling a picture too, where's the sun? The sun's right at the other foot that's right resting on the head of his adversaries, right on Antares, the heart of the adversary. We see the line declaring multiple ways with the sun, the bridegroom, with his foot squarely planted on the adversary. He's going to be making them his footstool. We see his right foot right at the throne of God, right also resting on his enemy, that he's going to be making his enemies his footstool. That same heel that was bruised by the adversary is going to bruise and crush the adversary. We see both these pictures by the lineup that's going on right now. Brought to this place right now, a conclusion. It's all coming to a turning point. It's coming to an end, an expected conclusion to the story. We have full reason to be expecting, henceforth expecting that this is a time when these events will happen. We see the story, we hear the story declared so loudly that this is a time to expect our bridegroom, to expect our Redeemer, the one who has been running a race toward us since the Garden of Eden. Are we running out to meet him, out to meet the bridegroom? Are we running a race too? He apprehended us. Are we apprehending him? Let us love him, because he first loved us. We have so many things declared and coming together right at an incredible turning point right here. Again, the Son right on his enemies, right here at the throne of God, right here above his enemies. He's about to make them his footstool, and he's about to give his first fruits. Victory over the sting of death too, right here at the right hand of God where he is sitting right now, and one day he will take us to where he is, at the right hand of the throne of God. So many powerful things coming together at this turning point right here. When we zoom in a little bit, we see that this picture, this story is declared over several days. So we are going to watch all during this time. Again, we do not know the day or hour. All I can tell you is, let's watch. We have full expectation. We see a story conclusion coming together right here. Jupiter is going to be strongest lined up with these lines on December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. It's when it's going to be closest within this area. But we also understand Jupiter is going to be in the well understood area of the Milky Way between the star in Sagittarius and the stinger of Scorpius. That commonly marks out the core relation of the Milky Way along the ecliptic between those points right there. So up until December 9th, Jupiter is still right at the throne of God. It's still in the area of all these things coming together. It's still at the right hand of God. All these things coming together. All these stories still told right here. So we are going to watch the days ahead. That's all we can do. But we can watch with full expectation. A time of expectation for the turning of a prophetic page. That's all we can say. When we look on the timeline, definitely check it out. Link in the description box. Again, we have what Jupiter is doing all during this red box time. Is going to be within the Milky Way core area on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of December. It's going to be intersecting the galactic equator and the solstice circular on the ecliptic along that line. So all these three are being crossed not on the exact same day, but pretty much hours apart. They're all coming together. All their stories are coming together at this core time. We see time is short for this story. That's all we can say. We've just recently had so many reminders to check our oil. Shine bright. It goes with the parable of the wise virgins. What was the story there? Check your oil. Trim your lamps. Shine bright, because you have heard that the bridegroom cometh. You know he's coming quickly. Check your oil. Shine bright. And go out to meet him. We have so many things telling us that time is so very short. And we can also see that the sun is right above the heart of the adversary at this time too. All going to be right over that main core over days ahead. So again, we have a lot of things that we're watching right now. That's all we're going to do. We're going to watch, but we're going to be doing so much more. We're going to be rising up and going out to meet him too. Matthew 24:37. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Christ repeatedly emphasized to the disciples about 4 times, telling them this is exactly how my coming is going to be. He's coming while life is still going on like normal, while the world is not even expecting judgment and changes to their lifestyle, because life is still going on like normal. But Christ emphasized the very day that he is going to call his wise and faithful servants into the chamber of safety right before the day of indignation starts. Life will still be going on like normal. The world will not have any clue that judgment is just about to start. The world will not have a clue that judgment's about to start, but his servants who are watching and wise and faithful, they will. That's the difference he's pointing out. The world will not know, but if you are looking up and lifting up your heads and paying attention, and you know that your redemption draweth nigh, you will know, and you will not be surprised, and it will not catch you unawares when I come, when the Son of Man comes for you. When the Son of Man is coming to call his wise and faithful servants, his wise and shining virgins, into the chamber of safety. But the world will not expect it. Christ drove home the example. It's going to be just like the days of Noah. Noah and his family were called into safety. They were safe before the very first raindrops fell. They were called into safety while the world did not even know judgment was about to start. The same for Lot and his family. Lot and his daughters were safe before judgment even started to fall. The people in Sodom had no idea that judgment was about to start. They were waking up, going to work, making breakfast. They did not know until judgment came. They were unawares that judgment was just about to fall. Christ will call his wise and faithful servants who listen to his instructions into the chamber of safety first. But he also gave with those warnings, remember Lot's wife. Remember Lot's wife. Study the story. I want you to be aware of what time it is. I want you to be ready to go. I want you to be listening and serving me. I want you to be trimming your lamps and shining bright and going out to meet the bridegroom. because you should know what time it is and how you should live accordingly. So with the understanding of Christ's coming, we also have instructions, we also have exhortations, we also have warnings. And this is what we need to remind our fellow servants about. We need to provoke them unto love and to good works, to do what our Master wants us to do when he shows up, so we are found wise and faithful. Definitely download our resources, When to Watch for the Lord's Return. Review the instructions that Christ himself gave in Scripture. This is when I'm coming. This is how the Son of Man's coming is going to be. It's going to be just like this. And the more we understand the time frame when he repeatedly emphasized when he's coming, we also see the instructions he gave that relate to his coming. This is how I want to find you. This is what you need to be remembering and keeping in mind when I do show up. He wants us to be sober, to be vigilant, to be ready. Be ready is one of his instructions. Let's review his instructions. Let's be the shining and faithful servants for our Lord. Let's be running for the prize. We review and we've seen the story, the tapestry of redemption of how the Lion of the tribe of Judah has been running toward us. He apprehended us first. The Lamb of God died and shed his blood on our behalf. Are we running and drawing nigh to him? Are we loving him because he first loved us? Let's run for the prize. Jesus Christ is the prize. This whole summary is what Paul was emphasizing in Hebrews. We know what Christ did. We know what he's going to do. He's going to be making his enemies his footstool. We can see that day approaching. We know what that day is. And as we see it approaching, so much the more, let us do what we're supposed to do. Let us shine like we're supposed to shine. Let's trim off what shouldn't be in our life. Let's cast off the works of darkness. Let's put on our Lord Jesus Christ. Let's provoke unto love and to good works, and so much the more. We know he's coming. Let's live like it. Let's shine bright for our Lord, for our Redeemer, for our bridegroom, for our beloved, for our first love. And how we live is going to be a demonstration of our race. Are we running toward him? Do we love our Redeemer? Our race is a demonstration of how much we love him. Let's draw nigh with a true heart is what Paul emphasized. And again, it goes back to Psalm 19. It starts out talking about the heavens declare the glory of God. The firmament showeth his handiwork. We've seen all the celestial signs. We've seen so many things about the heavenly mechanics even. But then how does David conclude that thought when he looks up, when he considers his Creator and his relationship with the Creator? Verse 12, who can understand his errors? Cleanse thou me from secret faults. Keep back thy servant also from presumptuous sins. Let them not have dominion over me. Then shall I be upright, and I shall be innocent from the great transgression. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. When we look up, we should also look inward. We should remember the tapestry of redemption. We should remember our Redeemer, the one who loved us first, and we should live accordingly. We should live so that our life is acceptable in his sight. Let the words of my mouth, that's what's seen on the outside. What is seen that I do, what I say, let it be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord. My heart, the meditations of my heart, what's on the inside, let it also be acceptable in your sight, O Lord. Keep me back from secret faults, from the blind spots that I'm not aware of, things I'm doing that might offend you, that aren't acceptable in thy sight. Lord, show them to me, point them out, help me look into your word so I can see secret faults that I'm not even aware of. And also, Lord, keep me back from presumptuous sins, things that I know are wrong but I do them anyway. Lord, help me do what you want me to do. You are my Redeemer, Lord, and I want to live as though I love you. As we are the sons and daughters of God, we have the hope of seeing him face to face very soon. And when we have that hope, we purify ourselves even as he is pure. These are the instructions that the apostles gave to the church. This is how we should live when we have the expectation of meeting our strength, meeting our Redeemer. When we know time is short, let's purify and sanctify ourselves, even as he is pure. This is why we should go outside, why we should look up, why we should lift up our heads. Not just to see the signs, not just to see the words and the demonstration of knowledge, what the heavens declare, but also to consider ourselves, to consider our Creator, to consider our Redeemer, and how we should live in light of our Lord. The more that we look upward, the more we should also look inward. The two should go together, so that our life is acceptable in his sight. We've heard so many things telling us the bridegroom cometh. Go ye out to meet him. Go ye out to meet him. Go ye out to meet him. That's the call. That is the instructions given when we know the bridegroom cometh. Not go somewhere else. Go out to meet him. Don't get busy with other things. Go out to meet him. Rise up. Trim your lamp so you will shine brighter. Shine bright. Rise up. Don't just sit around doing nothing. Rise up with your life. Be active going out to meet him. Make a demonstration of your love for him. He has run toward us. He has apprehended us. Let's rise up and be shown, be found, running toward Him. Lord, I want to be close to You. Let us draw nigh with a true heart, with a genuine heart. Lord, get out of my life anything that keeps me back from You. Set aside any weights that hold us back. Lord, I want to draw nigh to You. I want to draw nigh to my bridegroom, to my beloved, to my Redeemer, to my first love. So let's rise up together. Let's trim our lamps. Let's shine bright. Let's have an ear to hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. Let's have hands and feet that are quick to obey. Let the words of our mouth and the meditation of our heart be acceptable in His sight, as we go out to meet our strength and our Redeemer, loving Him and serving Him first and highest above all else. Maranatha.